All right, so we have a new episode of Legends and Leaders, and today it's great to have Chris here. Chris, you're the CEO of Evil Geniuses. It's a pretty important company in the esports and the gaming space, and you've had an interesting journey to get to the point where you're leading this. You've had experiences working for marketing at the MLB, and you got to see a company merge together that you had a pretty important role when that happened, in called Triggerfish. And now you're able to really be at the forefront of what's next in gaming. So I'm excited to have you here and to get into your story.
Thanks, Ben. Excited to be here. Looking forward to this.
Awesome. So, early on, how did your interest in business leadership and wanting to be in a leadership role, how did that kind of start?
Yeah, it started probably in my first two jobs. I was in marketing and activations and sponsorship management for an agency, a few agencies, and my supervisors there really gave me what I'd say a long leash to make my own decisions and come to them with recommendations. They never gave me the answer, right? And so they forced me to think for myself, figure out how to get things done, and then how to lead a company going forward. And for me, it was one of those things where I loved that ability to be empowered and have my own focus, have my own responsibilities. I've tried to bring that into my own leadership today, and it was something that it just started me on that path of being a leader and focusing on how to lead a company, how to run a business, how to make decisions, all of which was started, when I first started out in my career, and has kind of stayed with me ever since.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that the opportunity to be in the marketing for MLB started to make you understand how, what you're doing now, how these teams operate, what kind of marketing is necessary?
Yeah, getting my feet wet at Major League Baseball was a really eye-opening experience, to see how they worked with big corporate partners, down to even how they hosted their clients and suites, and what it meant to really manage an account, sell in a new partnership, and activate it the right way. It was a great experience. Really got to work with some of the best in the business there, and it set me up to think creatively about how to market a brand to an audience using the fandom that property has. When I got into that role, I thought sales. I never thought I wanted to do sales. It was like, that sounds terrible to have to try to get people to buy into something. But when you realize the power that certain properties have, and the fandom and affinity that they have, and the way to creatively connect the dots, so a brand which may make little sense to be a partner with, let's say Major League Baseball, with Major League Baseball itself, but then Major League Baseball's properties, the way that you can tie them together to bring value to the brand and to Major League Baseball, but more importantly to the fans, was something that I got a first-hand experience on at Major League Baseball, and has stuck with me as something that drives me creatively in trying to find those connections to make brand partners with Evil Geniuses really resonate with our fan base, even though there may not be that connection at face value.
It's definitely an interesting takeaway. It's just about kind of making them work and finding the commonality.
Yeah.
So, you decide to eventually be involved in innovation at Evil Geniuses. First of all, just taking even a step back, why did you want to be involved in Evil Geniuses? What did you see at the company that excited you?
Yeah, I'd been a fan of Evil Geniuses for some time before joining it as an employee. And it was one of those organizations that had the history and legacy in esports going back to 1999. This is our 25th anniversary this year. It's a really special year for us. And I'd always wanted to be at what I'd consider the blue blood esports organizations within within this gaming industry. Evil Geniuses being one of the penultimate ones. And so when I was talking to Evil Geniuses, I wanted to come and bring Moneyball to esports. That was one of the things I really wanted to focus on. I'd been in sports. I'd seen Moneyball. I read a lot about it, different books, and different stories. And at a few other teams I'd been with, when I'd ask their general manager, okay, he'd come to me with a potential roster of players, and I'd talk to him about them, and I'd be like, why are these guys or girls the ones that we're choosing or looking at? And they're like, oh, our coaches say they're good, or our players have played with them and they're really good. We should sign these players. I'm like, what about like there's no basic stats? Like we're not evaluating them or benchmarking them against other people. Like these games are based on ones and zeros. Like there's data inherent into the game. Like we don't have to translate anything physical into actual numbers to evaluate players, but no one was using data to make those decisions. It was just total eye test, total anecdotal evaluation. And I said, like, look, we have to start using data. And so that's what I wanted to do at Evil Geniuses. I came in, I built a team of data scientists and engineers to create advanced algorithms and use analytics to actually look for talent, evaluate talent, and come up with strategies for us in the game titles we were in. And I had great GMs, great team managers who also looked at this data with an open mind and came in wanting to make data-driven and data-informed decisions. It wasn't necessarily like, hey, the data was and the information we were providing was totally true or was the 100% answer, but it was like combining the insights with the experience of the game to create like the right roster. And so that was my focus. We won an award from Sports Business Journal in our first year of doing that. We helped kind of validate 2 rookies of the year, 1 MVP. We won a couple trophies, not entirely because of Moneyball and the analytics we were building, but definitely helped solidify some of our rosters and some of our decisions.
So it was pretty transformative, this like applying data science to the sport.
Yeah, it wasn't really something that many were doing in this space. We were one of the first and the pioneers to do it. We were able to bring in a big partner in Hewlett Packard Enterprise to help us kind of put this thing on rocket fuel and use their ML ops team, machine learning operations team, and data scientists and engineers to really build tools that are cutting edge within the space, things that haven't been done around voice analytics and analysis, drafting bots so you could practice against other teams, to now a scoring model that scores every action in a game every second. So it's been pretty amazing what we've been able to do with them. They've been very supportive. It's we are really showcasing what AI can do in a really transformative way for a business.
Mm-hmm. I think the interesting thing with that partnership is like, it seems like some of these partnerships you do with, a team like yours, it can be promotional based, but it seems like there's a promotional element and there's also this whole other element to it that they're really enhancing the operations of the team.
Totally. Yeah. There's, you look at a lot of corporate partnerships and it's like, hey, let's put our logo here. Let's get awareness for this, this gaming audience, or right. Or even in traditional sports, let's just plaster ourselves on the outfield wall and at a baseball stadium. Right. But for us, it's an actual partnership, right? Yes, we are providing awareness and engagement and content for them. There's a lot we do from an employee retention perspective to help their new employees or provide VIP and hospitality experiences to their current employees. But really, it's a way for us to work together, utilize their services. They're enhancing our business. We've gone to many different conferences to talk about the things we're building, and it's really a showcase for both of us on the power and potential of what advanced analytics, AI, and machine learning can bring to a competitive esports organization.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So you were innovative in this avenue, and I'm sure that that the success of it was definitely interesting to other people at the company. Why do you think, Chris, that you were chosen for the CEO role currently?
I think when we look at last year, I'd been with Evil Geniuses since about August of 2020 when I look at the calendar. So a little over 4 years now. It's just kind of crazy to think. I had experience leading other organizations in the past. I was president of another team. And when you looked at like my time here at Evil Geniuses, as well as my past and my history in sports and entertainment, I think I was just the right fit to lead EG into a new era, right? We're heading in. This is our 25th anniversary, as I mentioned, right? And as we look at the next 25 years of Evil Geniuses, the things that we're starting to do now will define the future of this organization. And having having that marketing background, having the partnerships and sales background, and then kind of driving this tech innovation focus for Evil Geniuses, it made sense for us to kind of combine those efforts and have me at the helm as we bring EG into the next generation.
Mm-hmm. And like, speaking of where you want to bring it, like, what are some of the things you're most excited of innovating in?
Yeah, I think there's really three big areas that we want to focus on. The first is, multi-generational fandom. The second, fan monetization, and then this final piece is a true path to pro. And so I'll touch on all those if you don't mind. But
Sure.
generational fandom, you look at esports, it's still very, very new. We've been talking about it for a while. Everyone thinks it's kind of been around for, let's say 20 plus years. We've been around for obviously 25. But when you look at that in the grand scheme of things, especially compared to traditional sports, it's still very young. And so our fans, who were fans of us back in the late 90s, early 2000s, they are now in adulthood. They're having their own kids, right? And those kids are probably also gamers and may also be, fall in love with esports and the esports teams that their parents follow. If you look at like the past, right? Like my grandfather grew up with baseball, football, and the NFL kind of came in as he was an adult, right? And he brought that, he started to fall in love with that, brought that to my dad. My dad, huge NFL fan, and made me a big NFL fan, right? But like I grew up with video games and esports, right? And I'm a huge gamer. I love the esports space, right? My kids are 8 and 5. Like we play video games together. They cheer on Evil Geniuses. Every day I get home, they ask me whether we won or lost, right? Like that generational fandom is happening and is starting to happen. And when it does in the next, 5 and 10 years, like the esports teams who have been there and are cultivating that community and that fandom are going to really succeed. So like, how do we hit both the youth, the young generation, but also their parents who are now, having kids who are going to be interested in esports and understand the opportunities, the career path, what it can lead to. And that's kind of, we'll go to the third one, which is the true path to pro, right? When you look at, I've coached baseball, right? If you're a parent and your kid wants to play baseball, you kind of know the ropes, right? Like, all right, we start at T-ball and we go into like double A, triple A, double A, and we or double A, triple A, we go on up, right, into majors, and then you maybe go to Little League World Series, and then high school, and then you get scouted, and you can go to college and pro, right, minor leagues, all that. Like there's like that whole path to make it there. There's people teaching you along the way who know baseball because they played in high school, they played in college, right? They know the sport. That doesn't exist in the esports and gaming space. There really is nothing to help you figure out like, hey, I'm pretty good at this game. I might be the best in my neighborhood, my best of my friends, but like, where do I go from here? What's the next step if I'm a parent and my son or daughter is really showcasing a lot of skill here, or like this could be a good opportunity for them, right? How do we help build that with our knowledge, our coaching? We have 25 years of lifting trophies that we can help kind of create this ecosystem. We're working with some partners to do so. There's a lot of great groups out there doing it right now, but a lot of the time, the volunteers, the coaches, the people running these things aren't, they may not have pro experience, right? And so they're just doing it from their fandom, their love of the game and gaming. And so how can we help create a more structured system going forward? And then finally, fan monetization. I think all teams are looking at this, whether you're Evil Geniuses or another team out there. And one of the things that traditional sports do so well is getting their fans to actually spend money on their team, right? Whether that's through tickets, parking, jerseys, experiences, maybe even content. And so like as a team, it's something that we need to continue to iterate on. How do we provide value to our fans in a way that they're potentially willing to support us in a monetary aspect? And then as a league and a team in a league similar to like the NFL, let's say, how do we work with broadcast partners to secure media rights deals and distribution opportunities for this content that is a really great demographic to have on your platform, to help us, continue to make this a sustainable and long-lasting ecosystem.
I definitely think that those are important points, Chris. Like right now, I think esports is at an interesting avenue where, like you mentioned, you guys have been around for 25 years, and there's a lot of mainstream attention on it, but there's definitely some more points where it can go. How do you think like you guys can push more towards getting like major broadcast distribution? What do you think it will take to get that done? Because I'm sure that will bring in more sales, more fan support, and that seems to be one of the most important things now to traditional sports.
I think it comes down to a partnership between the team entities, which and then the developers, right? The game developers themselves have a lot of power in this ecosystem. They own the IP or intellectual property of all these games, right? And a lot of them run or decide who will run the leagues themselves and operate the leagues. And I think we want to make sure gaming is accessible to everyone. We want to make sure people can view it on a lot of platforms, and we can get this thing globally, which I think also has some nuances where like some sports, right? Like they really only care about their North American audience or the US audience, right? Like we're a global brand. We're in global esports. Like we have there's broadcast partners all over the world. But I think it's a partnership between the teams and the developers to look what's best for the league and find platforms that won't just pay to distribute it, but we'll also pay to help grow it. And we'll want to grow it through, shoulder content, other marketing, maybe collaborations between content properties on their platforms and the esports teams or the gaming teams themselves. I mean, we have significant influence and opportunities to help promote other things outside of just video gaming to our audience. They love things like they're music fans, they're movie fans, right? They watch anime, they watch TV shows, right? Like we can help kind of target the untargetable because a lot of our fans use ad block, right? And help kind of make what we talked about with HPE, where it's like an actual partnership work rather than somebody just paying us to broadcast our games on their platform.
Mm-hmm. And how do you see like esports evolving most? Like what areas do you think are going to change the most over like the next 10 years or so?
Yeah, I think you will see an increase in I think you'll see a further increase in mainstream, I guess, acceptance and awareness of esports. I think it's continuing to grow. You look at the Olympics just recently, and a few of the gold medalists are excited about going home to play video games or compete in certain titles. And from an esports standpoint, I think that grassroots path to pro will continue to grow and be a focus. As we mentioned, kids are growing up as gamers with gamer parents. I think from an esports perspective, you're going to see, and you will likely see, further enhancements in the viewing experience. Esports was really the first to focus and figure out streaming and create that type of engaging entertainment that traditional sports and a lot of other broadcast distribution models have now kind of copied, right? I would say that the Twitch and YouTube experience is pretty much the same as it was maybe 10 years ago. I think a lot of the developers and a lot of these platforms are starting to look at how do you make that broadcast more engaging. So instead of watching and just chatting, which people love, they enjoy it, are there things that can be built in that maybe reward fans for engaging in the game with what's happening on screen? Are there ways that the fans can influence the broadcast in some way, right? You don't really have home field advantage in a lot of ways. Are there opportunities to make that happen, on that viewing experience? Are there ways to make a broadcast more focused on a team itself, right? Like you look at certain ways fans consume sports, and it's really about their city. It's about like their people, their team, especially in college sports, right? You want to listen to the broadcast of your team's own commentators, right? It's kind of like a homer call, if you will, of like they're going to get hyped for the things that are happening on their team. And you're starting to see that with esports evolve, where like we have our own co-streamer for our own matches. He's hyping us up. it's a very EG's focused chat, right? If you don't like EG, you're probably not watching it. But if you do like EG, like that's the place to be. And that, that focused, like centralized kind of broadcast is definitely one that I continue to see. You talk, there's a lot of talk about AR, augmented reality, VR. I think VR still needs a significant adoption for that to become like something that is esports focused, but I could see augmented reality being a really great way to enhance the broadcast, utilizing your phone to kind of see what's happening on a table in front of you, right? Because the game itself is happening in 3 dimensions in a variety of different areas. It's not just like, hey, this is where the ball is, we're going to focus on the ball, but everything that's going on in esports is really important. And so being able to see it in real time playing out maybe on your table, instead of just watching like one person's perspective, could be a really unique way to take technology, which obviously we've always been great at in the esports gaming space, and bring it into a way to augment that user and viewer experience.
I think there's definitely a lot of exciting opportunities that are going to arise. I think like it's interesting, Chris, because there's so many gamers in the world. It's like there's even more gamers than there are people that play basketball, like billions. So you would think that esports would grow into this amount of gamers that there are and become even bigger as it goes. And I think like by some of the ways you mentioned, it's going to get to that point.
Yeah, we hope so. I think when you look at everybody, like everyone's a gamer, whether you're playing Wordle on your phone to League of Legends or Valorant, and the accessibility and the ability to play these games, whether it's on your Switch, your phone now. I mean, you can play some of these great titles anywhere. I think that's just going to make like gaming and competitive gaming itself even more ubiquitous and part of everyone's daily life. And that will just in turn grow more and more fans of like these clips, these highlights, these games, and the interest in watching them and enjoying them.
Definitely. Just the last question that I have, you guys are owned by Peak Six. We had Jenny on as well as a guest. What would you say are some of the best ways that Peak Six has been beneficial to growing the Evil Genius brand?
I'd say Peak Six believes in what we're doing, where we're going, and like they are great at forcing me, especially as a leader, to ask questions and help push us in directions that maybe may seem tough at first, but actually end up being like the right way to go, in the fact that like we don't want to be complacent. And I think like that mindset from Peak Six of like always strive to get better every day, focus on how do you find the win, and make decisions, and if they're wrong, just fail fast, move on, and find something new to continue to push forward on, and like always keep pushing, right? Like I think that's where like they have been extremely impactful. Obviously, like, their guidance as leaders, Jenny and Matt are phenomenal business people. They understand a lot about the world that I haven't even seen before, and so like the way that they ask questions, the way that they push me to think in a more detailed fashion and continue to focus on getting a win every day and striving for greatness and not being complacent, I think is like what I'd say from my standpoint, where they've been the most helpful for Evil Geniuses.
Definitely important to keep pushing forward. Chris, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I definitely think it's exciting what you're up to, and there's so much opportunity in esports. So Evil Geniuses is really well positioned with you leading it, and I look forward to seeing where you'll take it over the next 25 years.
Thanks, Ben. I'm excited to be here, and looking forward to making our fans proud over the next 25.